Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation's LNTV. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. Today we're going to be talking free speech and a legal case that's gotten quite a bit of interest recently. To help us unravel this, we're joined by legal affairs editor for LibertyNation.com, Mr. Scott D. Cosenza. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, Mark.
So, Scott, there's a Dallas activist who's won a case on free speech. He's pushing this forward now. Who is Avi Edelman?
Mr. Edelman, again, like you say, is a Dallas area activist. He was arrested for taking photographs at a regional train station in America, and basically has fought that case ever since. And he just got a big win in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that allowed him to continue his quest to sue the police officer who arrested him for doing so improperly.
Okay, can you describe the circumstances of the arrest for us?
Well, unfortunately, ever since the September 11 attacks, we've had an epidemic of police violence against photographers in the United States, Mark. In general, in public places, such as train stations or airports or the side of the street, a person in the United States has a First Amendment right to take photos and video and use a camera to do so. Unfortunately, so many police and security guards and others, any stroll through YouTube will show you, they kind of invent these laws that for terrorism purposes, we can't have you taking photographs, even though we know that, photographs of regional train stations are not something that have been used by terrorists in the United States, of course, so there's no actual safety threat or benefit. And even more importantly, of course, the Constitution prohibits the police from doing that and allows that kind of activity as protected under the First Amendment.
So this was Mr. Edelman was filming at the DART station, I believe.
Yes, a regional rail station in the Dallas area. Okay.
And he was asked to move along and not to take photographs, presumably cited by the arresting officer, the eventual arresting officer.
Stephanie Branch is the name of the police officer who arrested Mr. Edelman without the legal right to do so, and he has been suing her ever since. And that's what this case is about. That the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that his case can proceed, that she does not have qualified immunity.
Okay, could you explain a little about qualified immunity?
Yes, that's what the sort of crux of the case is about at this point. And qualified immunity is the immunity that officials in the United States, whether it's a state government, local, or federal government, have for their discretionary abilities. So whether a police officer might arrest somebody or not is within their discretion, and we can't sue the police if they do decide to arrest somebody or not, except, Mark, if that action is performed and it violates a clearly established federal law or constitutional right. That's the practice. So basically, it does make sense, because we can't have every single decision made by a government official to be subject to lawsuit that's within their discretion. But at the same time, of course, when government officials act illegally, like Ms. Branch did in this case by arresting Mr. Edelman for exercising his constitutional rights, this is basically the method of redress.
So here's the thing. So Mr. Edelman is now allowed to sue Ms. Stephanie Branch, but that strikes me as it's not really fixing the root problem. That as you say, this comes under the First Amendment, free speech, to be able to film and take photographs of public buildings in public spaces. Now, if he's allowed to sue as an individual, doesn't this mean that this one case is dealt with, and Mr. Edelman will be very happy to carry on, presumably, taking photographs of train stations, if that's his thing? But this doesn't stop, as you mentioned before, security guards all around the country, or police officers all around the country, also trying to move people on, and then if people refuse, they arrest them. Will it actually impact things on a grander scale, or are we going to have many such fights? Or are individuals going to have many such fights in the years to come?
Well, the American system is a clumsy one, but that's the mechanism for that it offers for redress of this grievance. So how we presume this will work is that so you were right in your summation, by the way. He has not won his case. He has won the right to proceed with his case. So we'll still have to see if Ms. Branch is held liable. And given the facts of the case, it seems very likely that she will be held liable, and the department then for her acts. So the idea is that the cost of paying his claim will be borne by the taxpayers, who will then be motivated, Mark, to see that the law is recognized. Now, that's quite a bit of a reach for some folks, as you might imagine, and it has resulted in, I think, a situation where many Americans feel like the police are allowed to basically get away with doing wrong to them because the method for that redress is an expensive and long fight. We're talking about a years-long legal fight costing many, many thousands of dollars. So, yes, your boggle over that arrangement in the system, it's understandable. That's the system that we have, though.
Okay. Did the Fifth Circuit? What did the Fifth Circuit say in terms of where this is going to go?
Well, the Fifth Circuit analysis concentrated on the question of qualified immunity and whether Ms. Branch had immunity in illegally arresting Mr. Edelman, and they found that she did not. That she did not have the authority to remove him from the station because he wasn't doing anything wrong. And the other thing, Mark, that the court found or took legal notice of was the internal investigation where she lied. I think it's over 24 times or 20, I don't know, a lot of times though, about this investigation. So it wasn't just that she said, I asked him to move and he didn't, and so I arrested him. She lied to manufacture a reason for that. Because her own personal preference that he not be there obviously was not going to hold much water. So what she lied and said was that the EMT personnel, the emergency medical staff that were actually treating this person suffering some kind of health issue on the train station grounds, she lied and said that they begged her multiple times to move Mr. Edelman away because he was interfering with them. And that never happened. And not only did it not happen, Mark, but the EMTs themselves questioned why she was arresting the man because they knew, the medical personnel knew that he had a legal right to be there and that the Constitution protected his right to take pictures. I will tell you that the most troubling part of the story, Mark, is that one of her fellow police officers also knew that Mr. Edelman had the legal right to be there. And he actually said, this is documented in the Fifth Circuit opinion, there was an open mic on one of the body cams, and the police officer says with consternation, he doesn't know why she's doing this, but he's not going to get involved, so it's all on her, which suggests that he knows she's acting to illegally arrest the man in violation of his constitutional rights and does nothing about it. And that, I think, really lays bare the problem that we have with police in America. It's not the errant police officer who's not doing something right. It's the other police officers who don't immediately and forcefully say, hey, let's protect this guy's rights rather than violate them.
Scott, we'll have to keep a close eye on this one because judging by what you've told us here, it seems though this isn't a finished story. There's going to be a lot more to this, and perhaps maybe there will even be an eventual recourse to ensure that police officers are acting from a position of their duties to enforce your rights. I think that would be
a healthy bill presented to the Dallas taxpayers by Mr. Edelman's legal team when it's all said and done.
Sure. Scott, thanks ever so much for your input on this.
Thanks, Mark.
And thank you to you at home for watching. If you enjoyed it, if you learned a little bit of something, click the subscribe button down below, or you can head over to libertynation.com to check out our articles, podcasts, radios, and more TVs like this. Thanks for watching.